This time on Ask Rad Rat, we answer the question, can a skateboard ever be too light? And we also talk about upload schedules. Let's get started. Welcome to Rad Rat Video, where we learn something new about skateboarding 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This is stuff like game reviews, trick histories, catching up with pros and finding out where they've been, all kinds of stuff like that. But today, we're answering your questions on the series Ask Rad Rat. So I've got a couple for you today, and let's get into it. First one is from NZ, who wants to know, how do you find all the time to do this research and put out 3 videos a week? Does it ever get in the way of work/family? Yeah, it sure does. I put about 20 hours a week into my channel. More or less, it depends. The game reviews are probably what takes the most time because, like, you know, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland take me like 10, 12 hours to beat it, you know, and thoroughly play it enough to review it. And then you gotta do all the footage and you gotta write the review and then edit it all, make thumbnails, all that kind of stuff. It takes a ton of time. And a good example of when it does get in the way is like right now. So I am back from my vacation in your time, but in my time, it's still next week because I'm trying to get some stuff ready so that I don't have to edit right when I get home. So I'm gonna be gone for like 8 days, including 2 Mondays, which are my big videos, and then a Wednesday and Friday. So I don't wanna get back and then make another video for Wednesday right away, which is why I'm making this one right now. So this whole month, instead of packing and trying to plan out what we're gonna do, where we're gonna stay, I've just been working on the channel. So it does get in the way sometimes, but luckily, the way my work is set up, I can kind of make some extra time if I need to. So I do freelance graphic design, design brochures, websites is my main thing, all kinds of other stuff like that. And I can kind of turn down work and plan things around, move things around so that I can get stuff done. But the problem is, that's my actual work that pays, and this is something that is, I make like 75 cents an hour on it. So, you know, if I think about it as a hobby, I try to keep it in its place and, you know, try to work on it when there's free time, but it does get in the way a lot. I'm not sure what I can really do about that, but I really enjoy doing it. I really enjoy being on YouTube, so it's here to stay. I might need to just get a better plan in the future, but it does get in the way, so that's the answer to your question. Next question is from Max Frings, who asks, can skateboard trucks be too light? Are titanium trucks or hollow/light trucks overhyped and make the board harder to control? Like how it's harder to control a lighter object in the air, like a feather, versus a heavier object. And he mentions if they were better, pros would use them, but it seems like they usually stick to the standard. So the way that you're talking about, like a lighter board being harder to control, would be if the board was really fighting the wind. You know, so if you were going really fast, like on the mega ramp, maybe this would be a better example. So you can see when they fly through the air, I think Bob Burnquist does his switch 180s, I think, and you can see he kind of tips the board so that it pushes against the wind and it holds the board to his feet. If you're in a position like that, you're going 45 miles an hour through the air and you're trying to do a backside flip or something, your board might kind of get away. In general, I think if you're skating normal, if you're skating street, you're not going to run into a lot of problems with, you know, the aerodynamics and the board getting away from you. Maybe to a slight degree, if your board was like 1 pound, I could see something like that. But I think the difference between the heaviest standard board and a board with light versions of everything, light deck, light, you know, hollow wheels, cord wheels, I don't think they make those anymore, but cord wheels and the lightest trucks on the market and all that stuff, it's not going to be a huge difference. So as far as that is concerned, I don't think there's a huge difference. But I think the reason why a lot of pros don't use them is either because they're not used to it or because the durability is more of a concern. So there was an interview with Rodney Mullen. I mentioned this before. He used to put ball bearings like on the base plate of his truck, between the truck and the deck, to make the weight more centered around the middle. And so if he had started skating with really light tensor trucks, then he probably would be fine, but he needed the center of gravity to be more around the middle of the board, the way that it would have been if the trucks were heavier. And so I thought that was kind of interesting because he's making the board heavier. Wouldn't that be harder? But it's actually not. That's what helps him do better. So it could be just because he's used to it. It could be because the way the board The way it flips a little bit differently is better. But that is something that I always thought was interesting. The second thing I'm thinking about is if you're a pro, you're more likely to be doing big gaps as opposed to grinding your curb outside, right? And so if your trucks are really light, they have all the excess metal removed and there's hollow axle and all that kind of stuff, then they may be more likely to break. So my friend Tony, who's watching, if I'm wrong about this story, you can comment. He had some Titan TI lights, which I don't think are around anymore. And I remember it was either these or Ventures, but he did like a flat ground heel flip, landed, kick turn, and the truck just stayed there and like sheared off of his board. And they were just gone. And yeah, they were really light and they're titanium, so you'd think they'd be really strong, but they actually broke really easily. If it wasn't that, because he had Ventures break too, but they both broke in just kind of basic stuff. So if you're trying to do big gaps and stuff and your axles are gonna bend when you land, it'd be better to just get the more heavy duty board. So the other thing I thought about was the weight of your board. My board, which I just weighed before starting, is 4.4 pounds. And there's nothing special about it. It's mid trucks. I have like 58 millimeter wheels. It's pretty, maybe on the heavier side, because I don't have any of that lighter stuff. But the difference between the heaviest and the lightest can't be that much. If I upgrade to an 8.5 inch board, there'd be a little extra axle on the trucks, which isn't gonna weigh that much. Little extra wood, but again, what's it gonna be, an extra ½ pound at the most? Even the heaviest board, let's say it was like 6 pounds, a whole 1.6 pounds more than mine. Imagine a 1.6 pound weight, you know, like two tiny little weights like you might use for a jazzercise class with your grandma or something. If you had to carry those, you know, either in your like coat pockets or just in your hands while you're skating, do you think it would really slow you down that much? I don't think so. So if you're talking about doing a big ollie or something like that, and you have to pull the board up in the air, and if it's that little bit heavier, it's not going to do much, because you can look at back in like 1988 or something like that, big 10-inch boards with all the gear on it, the rails and all that kind of extra stuff, and they could still ollie over trash cans and picnic tables and stuff. So if that was possible, is it really helping you that much? I don't think that it does. I think it's more of a marketing thing than anything else. But the biggest time when this would really help, I would say, is with kids. If you're just getting started skating, you're this tall, you have to have that, you know, kid stance where your legs are really wide because the board is just so big. Having it be a little bit lighter will make a big difference. The other thing I would think is boards are getting bigger and bigger. Part of that might be because they're a little bit lighter. So if you had, you know, an 8.5 inch deck or setup right now might weigh the same as like a 7.5 from 95, something like that, you know, like it would help you get a little bit bigger of a board. So I think in general it's a good thing, it's a good trend, it's a good practice to try to make things as light as you can without compromising performance, but it's not going to make that big of a difference. If you have noticed a big difference, let me know. I would like to hear exactly what feels different to you. The other big thing is that flip tricks don't take 100% of your effort. You know, maybe when you're first starting, or maybe if you're trying to do a triple flip on flat, you got to flick it as hard as you can, and that extra 1/8 inch wide is going to make a big difference. But for most of us, you can do a kick flip and catch it. If it flips a tiny bit slower, it's not going to make that big of a difference. So I think it's more about having durability, having some momentum. Like, you know, if you're doing a grind, if you board weighs some, you can really land on it and lean into it. It would feel a little bit more stable, that kind of stuff. So in general, I don't bother with light stuff. I don't go for heavy necessarily, but I don't think it makes that big of a difference. If I'm wrong, let me know. I want to hear what you have to say in the comments. So also in the comments, let me know all of your questions. So like I said, I'm just going to be getting back from vacation when this video goes up. I'm going to need a lot of questions so I can get to work on the next batch of videos. So put all those in the comments. And until next time, here's some more videos I did recently you might want to check out. And don't forget to hit my logo on screen right here to subscribe so that you can learn something new about skateboarding 3 times a week. Thank you for watching.